Hi, everybody. Welcome to my first live streaming. This is quite exciting. Um, and I am just giving a few more minutes, if that's okay, to see if some people join in. Uh, we are going to start at 5. So let's give one more minute. Hello. I'm counting on you. So let's start. So very welcome to this my first live streaming on YouTube and on Instagram. And thank you so much for those that are here, and for those that will watch me after. And so I am going to be with you today just for 30 minutes. And just for your information, I have not prepared anything, or well, I did prepare something for you, which is like a structure of a content. However, I am going to go with the flow and not force myself to be, not myself, if that makes sense. So I will talk about a few things, and you can comment, of course, or ask questions, but I will definitely save some time for later, and I will look into your questions and answer your questions. I hope that's okay. So, my name is Andrea Santo. I am a clinical and counseling psychologist. I'm also a family and systemic practitioner. So, this means that I have done postgraduate training in family and theories and systemic theories. I work and live in the UK, and I am based in Isle of Wight, where I work at this stage remotely with people, so online, but also in the Isle of Wight. So, the purpose of this session today is to discuss three important themes. One is neuroscience, another one is social narratives, and another one is unconditional self love. So, just for your information, I am compiling beautiful information regarding the science of unconditional self love, which I have been really introducing in my life for a few good years. And also, I use it in my work with my patients and clients. So, I hope you enjoy it, and let's kick in. So the purpose of this session definitely is to allow better notice and understanding and validation. So this means like that you and I can become better at noticing what's going on with us in the here and now. This seems to be really difficult for most people because we tend to rush or overthink. I don't know if that happens to you. It certainly happens to me that sometimes I overthink and I can become anxious. And I know, and we know from science that this is common to almost every human being. So this is our nature, right? Um, and the reason why we get anxious or sad or angry, um, many times has, the reason has very valid reasons. So this means that, you are entitled to feel unsatisfied or dissatisfied or something like that. You are also entitled to feel angry and to feel anxious. So, what is anxiety? Anxiety basically is a combination of three dimensions. One is our imagination. So this means that we do create many scenarios in our minds constantly, and these scenarios, I will talk about it a little bit further later on, but these scenarios are quite complex and sophisticated at the point of releasing quite a lot of chemicals in our nervous system. And, we might think that these chemicals are, are not deliberate or are not, we are not able to control them, but we are. And this is what I want to teach you, so you understand, as I have been learning, so you understand how you can best self regulate and feel joy and feel less anxious and less depressed. So, this will be, I think, rather easy for you to understand. Um, I believe that this approach can support you stabilizing very quickly. So you can very quickly stabilize yourself, and if you practice it, and basically you just need to remember the stages you have to go through. And this is quite important. Because what anxiety tends to do is to bring people to a state of despair. A state of despair is highly difficult to tolerate, right? I'm sure you understand that. And the reason why it's highly difficult is because it's really puzzling. It is highly puzzling, and it is highly difficult for the individual in that moment to process anything outside of that tornado, if you like. So, so it's important that you understand that you can have an impact in how you feel. Also, if you are unconscious about the way you feel most of the time, you will definitely, unfortunately, suffer. So, something that I'm asking you to do or to join me in doing is to be more conscious and present about your emotions. And I understand because we live in a co created world where culture and where social norms are here to sustain a little bit of homeostasis. So the systems we have, I am Portuguese, and I live in the UK. So being Portuguese means that I grew up in a particular environment. I like to call it these days ecosystem, where people not always are very deliberate. So they tend to be very emotive and very passionate, sometimes angry, sometimes they vent very quickly. And of course, I see that happening in many other cultures. So you might find this familiar with your culture if you are from a different background. However, depending of the environment and depending on your life circumstances, and I want to acknowledge that many people go through very difficult life circumstances like trauma or loss of loved ones, or difficulties that are really transcend their ability to tolerate pain. And this is definitely part of being human. And I guess what I would like to invite you to think about is that, perhaps you can find a way to maneuver these streams of emotions, thoughts, and imagination, and also real pain in a way that is more comfortable and conscious and alert. And so, this is what I'm hoping to offer you today, and hoping that you will find it supportive and useful. Um, so I want to ask you one question, and this you can think about it. Don't need to answer, but feel free to, but don't need to. One question that came to my mind is, do people sometimes remember that they actually have brains and nervous system? I wonder this because I think that we don't tend to think about that. I think we kind of spend time here and there watching documentaries and reading books. And of course, there is people that work with that all every day and they think about it. But some people that don't work in um, health professions or anything related, maybe they don't have time. They don't think about whether they have a brain or a nervous system. They shift from one task to the other, and then this is what life is expecting from them. But I think a very funny question to ask and a very mindful one is like, did I remember today that I have a brain and a nervous system? And and the thing is, how many times could you remember yourself of that? And how does that make you feel? Hi there. How does that make you feel if you remember that you have a brain and a nervous system? How does that make you feel? Does that bring you to a center of your existence? Does that make you feel like, ooh, I'm actually here and I'm connected to this thing, this body, this structure, and I need to actually take a look inside, understand how it operates, understand how my brain actually operates. And I believe that, if we would remember that more, we would be more alert to our own inner dialogues and our own emotions and trauma, and time to process how we feel, and time to be real, time to enjoy, and time to indulge. So I do think that you know um, not just that, if you think about your brain that you have inside your head, because this body we have is not just a body of aesthetics, it's not just to please the eye or not, it's not just to show contrast in multi belief systems, it's not just, it is your body, it is also a vessel that you use to move and to make music or to work or to love someone or to study. It's something that you use every second and you require to in order to exist. Now the question is, are you mindful of that? Do you pay attention to your body? Do you remember the organs you have inside of you? Do you remember your brain? So I am emphasizing this because I would love if you could, project that in your daily life, because that in itself might bring you to a place of pause, of love for yourself, love for humanity, love for nature. And I think that, definitely helps me. And I know that helps many people. And I'm encouraging you to give it a go. Because, it's, think about it. You can't really make any scrambled eggs without eggs. The same thing is your thinking, your emotions, your actions. You can't make them happen without your brain and your nervous system. So again, I am going to quickly explain a bit about science in this, okay? Um, so one thing I would love to bring to your attention is that there are, every time when you are in a situation, you go to a place or you are at work or you are somewhere, right? You will always have to have your thinking going, right? But what people don't realize is that there is more beyond thinking. There is also some sort of imagination going on. We all got used to predict many things, to calculate things, to think about things. So if we do it, it's because we picked up from our parents, other people, teachers, even movies, right? So it's important that we understand that imagination is crucial in this situation. You have to ask yourself, is my imagination hyperactive? Do I imagine movies quickly, in a moment? And how is their life? Because, for example, if you are a parent, and if you need to get ready to your kids need to go to school, for example, you will use imagination to have a sort of and planning and thinking to have a sort of sense how the things will work out. But then you have to use your executive functions to actually express it, structure it, communicate with this, communicate with that one, and make it happen. Now, imagination is highly important to me because in your imagination, for example, if you have a dream or if you imagine like you're crossing the road and there is a car coming, you will feel in your body the effects of your imagination. So, what you feel in your body, and science is aware, is intense release of cortisol, of adrenaline, changes in your serotonin. So, there are chemicals. So, is not just you in your imagination and your life in a doing every time, as you think, even if you imagine something that you're just projecting out there and it's not really happening, you will feel the release of these hormones, of neurotransmitters. It will sink into your bloodstream. So, so imagine that situation. Or if you are in school, for example, and you have exams, thinking about exams, how does that make you feel? Do you get all over the place? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel anxious? How do you feel? And I believe that people got stuck on that dimension. They get stuck on that dimension, and they just imagine it is happening. And what is really important is to remember that there is some taming to do about that, because um, when we don't think, when we are unconscious, and we just spend life imagining things, imagining this possibility, that possibility, because someone is actually living that or someone is doing that. If we do that, and actually most people do that, and I've done that, and I still do that, and I need to be watchful, then what we have happening is a rain of chemistry that doesn't stop. In one hand, you have a thought of happiness, positive neurotransmitters and hormones, and if you have a negative imagination, do you know what I mean? So there will be always like a dance, a bouncing if you don't validate your experience, if you're not conscious about what's happening. Um, and so number one is pay attention to your imagination. And something that I want to bring up, I think I will bring it up now, is the a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical that is anticipative. It anticipates your journey. For example, if you like eating chocolates all the time or sweets all the time, that might be because you have dopamine ready to operate, and every time you show that positive stimuli of the chocolate, that particular hormone or chemical releases in you, just anticipates more pleasure. So there is more anticipation of pleasure, and this means that you are always on that dopamine cycle, if that makes sense. So the dopamine cycle is a prison, it makes you slave. And I know that because I love crisps and stuff, and I know it's not the healthiest option. And I know it gives me pleasure. Now, is it the best thing for me to have? Of course not. But there is in my mind the imagination that that moment will be cathartic even, or yeah, I will, just enjoy so much. But what I wanted again to make you think about is that element of being so fast. We are so fast, so in our imagination, that we have so many different stories going on that make no sense when you sit down and look at what's going on for you. So number two is thinking. So thinking, what is thinking for you? And for me, thinking is when you process information. One thing is when you see something beautiful and you feel some sort of positive emotion, chemical release in your body. And I don't know if it has happened to you. It definitely has happened to one friend of mine. She's a dentist, and she told me a story one day that she saw someone, and we were in university, and she saw someone, and she thought it was me. So she all actually got up from a chair and almost went to hug this person with a huge smile on her face, and then she realized that that was not me, her friend. So these things happen, and so in this moment, you see, we had just the emotion. We did not, in that case, this is just a very good example for you to think about it yourself, that after you have imagination of any sort, if you could pause to reflect about that and to ponder whether the thinking you are doing is one of logic and allowing opportunity for more understanding, or if it's actually one of habit. I'm just habit habituated to this. Dopamine is always kicking in these moments, therefore I'm just habituated to this. So, and so it's important that we know that thinking is more complex and requires a slower pace. How much do you give permission to yourself to have a slower pace? How much do you allow yourself to think calmly when you are at work, when you have your boss on your back, or when you have, or even not anybody there? Do you allow yourself to think calmly? Most people, they actually think they do, but what they don't realize is in the middle of thinking, they don't connect to their own reality, to how they are feeling, not to how they should feel, but to how they are actually feeling. One thing is how you should feel, and another thing is how you feel, right? And I think because we live in our imagination so much, we just quickly rush to the right answer, and we just say, this is it, this is what I really feel, this is what. But actually, if you would just wait a little moment, you would probably feel other sort of emotions, including maybe, eagerness or frustration or anger or irritation or happiness, many other emotions. So it is really important. Also, because we live in a very diverse world, we need to be patient and tolerant to one another. So this means that, we need to basically understand each other and allow each other space for um for expression, for communication, for thinking, because we all have different thinking styles and paces. We all have, it's like we have a particular signature. Nobody's signature is the same, right? When you sign a document, the same thing goes for paces. Each pace is totally different. So I hope you're still with me. I'm looking at the YouTube screen story, Instagram, but I'm trying my best here. Um, so yeah, so make space for you, make space for your beautiful self, make space for your ponderation and reflection, because one day that will be rather important. And science already indicates that, because there is a huge rush of adrenaline, cortisol, absence of, low levels of serotonin. And so it indicates that this happens because of overthinking or rushed reaction. So, uh, so we need to honor thinking, because thinking is amazing. Thinking makes us think, makes us plan our lives, plan our joy, and succeed in life, and actually have beautiful careers and beautiful moments, beautiful friends. If we don't think, we will not achieve that, right? So we know that. So thinking is the common thing, but it's a sophisticated, highly sophisticated, in my view, task. It requires getting outside the imagination and thinking logically. Um, so not important. So let's call like number two aspect here is the feelings. How much do you appreciate the way you feel? How much do you care about the way you feel? Do you notice your emotions, or you want to basically overlap them with other thoughts immediately and distract yourself? So science does know, and as many before science philosophy knew this, that we should always honor our real emotions. For example, if you are in a situation and you are in a group debate and you have a really different view from your friends and from your group, do you go quiet or do you actually express your view? So, what do you tend to do? Do you ponder? Do you step back? What do you do? And so this is awful. There's awful people on YouTube, but that's happens, right? I hope you learned something from this stream. Okay, so so obviously your feelings, like for example, people that are haters or are bullies, they tend to have quite a lot of insecurity inside of them, and but they find it difficult to recognize. But they are equally important and magnificent in their innate nature, so they don't need to be more than what they are. So they don't need to cause any discomfort on anybody. Okay. So emotions are really, really important. And so in this way, we need to definitely honor how we feel. If we don't honor how we feel, we don't know who we are. And that is a shame to go life to exist like that and to not honor who we are. So the third point, and I have actually bring it to a close soon. So please send me any questions if you have. But the third point is about communication. The communication point is really important because communication is your time to show off. When you communicate, you do reveal how you think. So if you're communicating and you don't reveal the way you think, then you're missing out on your own present moment. I think is definitely something quite to honor is to communicate from your heart and not just from, the dream world or imagination world. So for me, I honor communication, and something that I'm always doing is to try to slow down my communication and think of more constructive ways of looking at things, and of including everyone's views, and of making people feel comfortable, even those that suffer with self-esteem and security, and because happens to all people, so we should all try to slow down. And by slowing down, we create a better world and a better personal experience. So, yeah, just that. Otherwise, also want to bring up the idea of addiction, because if you are always thinking or and not in a calm way and listening to your heart, you might be addictive to that. And that means that you have a lot of other chemicals released and you can stop them. You can definitely stop that flow of unnecessary chemicals that anticipate your actions and even your thoughts. So yeah, so this was it. Kindly, if you feel do you have questions, please ask them now, or if not, it is totally cool. Don't worry. But the question for you to take with you today is: so must we ask? Is it important for us to slow down, and is it going to help us to do so? To slow down, is it important? Is it relevant? Um, Oh, Science says yes. Science says yes. So it's not just when we struggle, it's in every single moment. I practice that in every single moment, so I am more fully present and I can be aware of my intention and my real emotion and my thoughts, because that is honoring creation, that is honoring love and life, in my view. Um, and yeah, so just feel you can analyze things from a neuroscientific point of view. Think about yourself, love yourself, and go slow on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't rush, and practice to kind of to remember this dream or imagination dimension, thinking, emotion, and communication. And when you communicate, time to show off how you really feel in terms of how your authenticity and transparency, and that is what people are looking for. I promise you, people want connections that are meaningful. They don't want fast rapid connections that leads us nowhere, right? So we know that that's ancient wisdom, and we all can get there, and we're already getting there. So yeah, that was it for today. I hope it made some sense. Thank you so much for those that watched. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Portugal. Thank you, UK, and other places, Asia as well. And so, just 1 minute more, maybe if you have any questions. Perhaps not today. I'll be here next Saturday at 5:30. 5 o'clock in the UK to 5:30. And feel free to come along. And yeah, I'll bring fresh content. Thanks again. There is no questions, so I assume I can end the live. Thank you, guys. Take care and enjoy your day. Happy Easter.